Center presents Alumni Talks, a series of episodes featuring success stories from our very own trailblazers sharing lessons and experiences to help you jumpstart your career. Tell your story, share your lessons, create your own future.
Welcome back to Alumni Talks. Before we introduce our guest for tonight, let's do some icebreaker. We call this game You Got It Right. And to explain to you the mechanics of the game, here is Mr. Jason Flores.
Hello Trailblazers, my name is Jason Flores, your game master. Tonight, we will play Here, Got It Right. And here's the mechanics of the game. You will be given 20 seconds to guess the year of a certain USCP milestone. Don't worry, I will be giving you 3 clues to help you guess the right answer. Again, you will be given 20 seconds to key in your answers, and all you have to do is to guess what the year of a certain USCP milestone. Again, I'll be giving you 3 clues to help you guess the right answer. Alright, viewers, Trailblazers, are you ready? Let's begin. Here's the question. What year was DMMMPSC or Don Mariano Marcos Memorial Polytechnic State College founded? Comment in your guesses in the comment section. Those who will get the year right will win a 100 peso load card. Wow! For our first clue, not later than 1990. You have 20 seconds to key in your guesses. Here's a trivia for you. Did you know that through Presidential Decree number 1431, MSAT or Mindanao School of Arts and Trades converted into Don Mariano Marcos Memorial Polytechnic State College? And you have a minute to key in your answer. Here's the second clue. Not later than 1980. Alright, so the first clue was not later than 1990. And now the second clue is not later than 1980. Again, you just keep your comments coming. Don't worry guys, we will choose 10 participants to win a 100 peso load card. And here's our third clue, and this is our final clue, hoping you will get the right answer. It's between 1975 to 1980. Another trivia for you. Did you know that after a year, DMMPSC has expanded with 6 satellite campuses established in strategic places in northern Mindanao, namely Alubihid, Medina, Initaw, Mambahaw, Tangub, and Panoon. Alright, I hope everyone guessed the year right. Winners will be announced on our USCP Career Center Facebook page, so don't forget to follow and like us on Facebook to be updated on the winners for this game and also for our upcoming events. Okay, did someone get the right answer? And the answer is... it is 1978. Wow! That's it mga ka-Trailblazers. I hope you enjoyed the game tonight and learned something new from our trivias. Thank you so much for watching and see you next episode for The Year Got It Right. Back to you, Miss Grace.
Thank you, Sir Jason. Trailblazers, I hope you learned a lot from the game tonight. Our second alumni is an experienced leader in digital innovation, working with numerous multidisciplinary teams for over 10 years. He leads teams that produce high-quality, complex, and sustainable solutions that achieve epic business goals and deliver value to end users. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thor Turrecha. Hi, sir.
Thank you for having
me.
me.
Did I pronounce your last name, by the way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank
you.
God.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy that you are here with us tonight as well. Thank you so much. Before we begin, we'd like to thank you first for gracing us this evening. I know that you're very busy. I just heard that you just came from Australia and then next week you're going to be in Barcelona.
Yes.
Am I right?
So yeah, schedule's always hectic, but I always have time to go back to where I came from. And
yes, and we're very thankful for that.
All good.
So how's your trip?
Trip's a bit different. With COVID, there's a lot of, I think, precautions that you have to take.
Right.
It's weird as well seeing a lot of people at the same time. I was in Australia for 2.5 years.
You were.
Mostly working by myself. and now back in the Philippines where a simple dinner has 20 people. So it's quite exciting, and be able to interact again with people like this.
How are you
And
coping with those, with a lot of people?
two things, right? Like I went back as basically planned for a business trip, and the struggle is that I end up working too much in the office because, as most entrepreneurs do, you basically see your office as your second home. But at the same time, our house is just about a kilometer away from the office, so I get to see mom and dad and the dog and the cats as well. So it's been good, like, you know, it be able to remember familiar things, but at the same time inspires you to do more of the stuff that I'm doing.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's begin
Yes.
our Chickahound for tonight by giving us a glimpse of your journey here in USTP.
Yes.
The batch, the program that you were in, and maybe share some fondest memories,
Yes.
and just about anything that you want to share to our live viewers for tonight.
So first off, I graduated about, I think, 2006, a Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. Way back then, IT is not a big thing, and to be honest, I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna ask me what made me decide to jump into IT.
Yes, we are. I was just about to, actually.
And it's embarrassing to say, but at that time, that's the only classroom that has air conditioning. So
Really?
that was really the filter. Like, you go around and say, well, you know, maybe I should take this course because air conditioning classrooms.
In the
and,
ICD
you know,
building, I
yes.
assume? Okay.
So you could walk around. I think the registrar office is quite next to the ITB building.
Right.
And then going through register, you could hear the air conditioning outside, and you kind of thought, well, that's really tempting. So yeah, that was, as funny as it is, that's where it all started.
Okay, but prior to that, you've always had a thing for technology, or
No,
no,
like
not at all.
I've
Okay,
got zero kind of fascination with technology. If I could recall during that time, I'm only interested to play basketball, football, and not study. So I guess it was just lucky that I'm surrounded with people that are interested in tech. So me personally, I'm not interested with it, but I have friends that are very interested with it. So it's like having friends that likes eating, yeah. As long as, you know,
Right.
even if you are on diet, because they like eating, so you just have to jump in and participate. So I felt like that's how I started, and then it's definitely more an acquired taste. Like, as soon as I jump in and start to understand machines better, and that's where sort of the spark started and led me with sort of the direction of who I am today. So yeah, it was mostly circumstantial for me.
okay. So after graduating in high school, you never really thought of the course that you were gonna take?
No, like,
Not at all.
when I graduated, I kind of decided to follow my dad's footstep, which is civil engineering, just so I could make him happy.
Right.
And that was the
We
goal.
always, I think we all are.
Yeah, so I just like, okay, you know, so you win, Dad, I'll take civil engineering. So I was studying civil engineering in MSU, Marawi, and I studied civil engineering about a year and a half, and then I think there was a war during that time, and it happens to be that our campus is quite close to way back then the Abu Sayyaf's camp. So we have to, or at least my parents thought that we might need to ship Thor back in Cagayan, and that's where my journey started here at MUST before, or Don Mariano before really, and then yeah. So when I got here, if you know, Marawi is very cold place. So when you go back to Cagayan, you kind of think like, oh man, this is really hot. So that's why the air conditioning was quite tempting. So yeah, that's where it all started.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Can you
Okay.
walk us through your career experience, the very first job that you had, right up to where you are, the position, the profession that you are into?
Yeah, when I was studying here, we have one professor. His name is Remy Taga, and he somehow inspires people in a different way, and that's where it all started for me. Because for me, I know I can pass the exams, so most of the time I'm basically not even going to classes, take the exam, pass the exam, go back to the field and play football, play basketball, and that was the idea. And Sir Remy kind of approached me and say, look, if you're really good, then why not start helping other people and start helping your classmates and start participating in school activities pretty much.
And that was in first, second, third year?
Third year, pretty much. So I started, because everyone just gets scared with we're our professors, right? So we don't have that personal relationship. But before I would explain how I basically shaped my career, it's one thing that I remember him telling me before, where I was just on my way out the school and I was walking with him, and I think I was third year, fourth year way back then, so we're quite close already. And I asked him, like, why are you the only professor here that don't have a car? Like, you walk like us, like a student, you wait for the jeepney outside. And he said, I've got a lot of students to help to graduate. Way back then, he said to me a number. He said 250. He said he helped 250 students graduate. And for me to see that, very simple guy, he's very talented, and yet he makes decisions like that, where I'm here, I'm an educator, and I would judge myself based on the number of kids that I've helped, not just graduate, but help them change their lives. So to me, where most of the time I'm just out there playing and I know I'm good at what I'm doing, I have never taken a position where maybe I should start looking at things that would actually benefit other people. And
that would make a difference.
That was the trigger for me. And say, well, look at this guy.
Would you say that was a turning point, or not really? From
it was a
who
seed.
you were?
It was a seed
until,
planted there.
Okay.
Like, and every time someone would ask me,
where it all started.
Why do you do what you do?
You always go
the
back
why
to that.
behind it, and you always go back and say, well, this guy saw something in me that I have never seen, and even my parents haven't seen in me.
No one ever
no
saw
one,
you
no
like
one sat down with
cheated,
me.
cheated, right?
And say, and it was a humbling, it was a humbling moment for me that I have had to experience that. So that was my inspiration going through my career. And I decided, when I graduate, he offered me a job. So I was teaching Cisco 2 years after I graduate here. So I have no experience of teaching. So literally the only experience of me leading is basketball and football. And now you're in this classroom. Same thing you've mentioned before. You're gonna have to figure out, how do I help these guys? How do I, you're insecure at the same time. You're standing in front of them. You're thinking, how do I help these guys pass? But that started my appetite for, we're gonna have to do something about helping other people and helping create a path for others to follow. So that's where I started, and I was teaching for 2 years. Sir Remy, he just have a way to push me so that I don't get comfortable. And that's when I decided to take my master's degree in Australia. And I studied for about 2.5 years. And their life is very tough, right? Because you have to pay for your tuition, you have to work. Tuition's very expensive. And I have no friends, I have no relatives there, and I just have to figure it out. So that's where I think my experience from MSU, Marawi to USTP, where I think hardship is our bread and butter here, right? We always face life as unfair, and yet we're still progressing. Yeah. So that's where I started. I finished my master's degree, And though I have graduated with flying colors, my work in the next 2 years about that is just packing fruits in supermarkets, driving forklifts, cleaning whatever it is that I can clean. So it was tough. It was humbling that functionally, as a tech, I'm really good. My capstone project was to get a blind man to see. And I have aced every exams that I could see. But the reality is when you graduate, none of the market understand who you are. They don't see me as, hey, you've got good grades, I'll give you a job. So you go through from the bottom, you start from the bottom, and obviously you doubt yourself. You start to doubt yourself because you work every day. It's not an IT environment. You kind of thought, I haven't really studied that much for a long time, and can I still get a chance to get into IT? And then one person have given me a break, and literally a very simple job, because one of the guys that he was leading I think went back home in Hong Kong, and now I've got this opportunity to just copy and paste spreadsheets, right? Like now I've got I think 7 certificates in Cisco, graduated flying colors, master degree, and you're there copying and paste spreadsheets. You're not allowed to speak. And from there, you'd basically just hustle, find ways to improve, find ways to learn. And way back then, I can't speak properly, so I have to read newspapers every day. I have to pretend that I'm speaking to a camera every day, just so one day maybe I get a shot.
Was that a decision you had to make for yourself, or did you do research?
You're forced to it because you somehow realize that way back then, I have no inclination of actually learning communication and learning how to communicate that way. But when you're in the industry, you kind of start to realize that most people that are successful, they're very good at telling stories.
True. You learn the value of communication at that point.
Absolutely. A good example, right? Like you've seen a lot of movies about doctors, and yet the actors that are portraying the doctors get paid more than the actual doctor that saves lives. The difference is that the doctor that saves lives, very good at functional things, very technical in saving lives, but they're not telling stories. Where if you're an actor and actress with cameras and really good cinematography, your message can go to thousands and hundreds and millions of people. That creates impact, and that impact is a momentum that then creates value. And that's how our world operates today. So I've learned that the hard way, that I have to learn this in that way. So talk to myself, read magazines every day, pretend like I'm reading a news in front of a TV, just so I could learn to speak, but always figuring out a way to go into the sort of industry. So that was another 3 years for me, just doing all the crappy things that I like, the most boring thing ever. Like, I could finish my job in an hour and I have to wait for 7 hours until time ends, and then I have to go home. So that 7 hours I hustle, I learn new things, I learn how to program, I learn how to speak. And then 5 years doing all these boring things, an opportunity then came where one of the boss, or this is the CEO, he said, I am presenting to this big group, medical group way back then, so it was a sales opportunity. And he went into the floor and say, anyone from you guys know security, tech security? And I kind of thought, well, I'm the bottom of the food chain anyway. I'm going to raise my hand and say, hey, I know a bit. And he said, okay, you're the only one who raised your hand. Come with me.
What's there to lose, right?
So I went with him, and he said to me before the meeting started, and said, don't open your mouth until I would ask you to do something. And I was just there sitting for 3 hours until my CEO way back then ran out of fuel to answer all the questions, and he looked at me and say, what do you think, Thor? And it just happens to be that the question was something that I've been doing and practicing for 7 years. So obviously when I started opening my mouth, everyone was impressed, and everyone was like, yeah, you get the deal. And if I take a pause of that moment and explain, there are things in our lives that often you just have to do the boring bits and you have to prepare for it, because when the right opportunity comes, that's when success happens. Because if I started giving up and not really learning things and improving myself, when that moment of boring time that I'm in, I would probably not be able to respond to that moment. And that's just 2 minutes. You know, you're in a spotlight, everyone's looking at you. Thor, you know, what do you think? And probably my CEO's head, he was like, either I'm gonna fire this guy or I'm gonna give him a promotion tomorrow. And that was the beginning of it. And after that, we won the gig, and then my CEO then introduced me to a world of business and say, I'll teach you business, I'll teach you marketing, I'll teach you project management.
So that's what you do now.
So that was the beginning of me shifting.
So-
and to cut the story short, now I'm working for a lot of serial entrepreneurs. That these guys that basically owns 300 businesses, and what they do is they buy a business and they grow it to become a unicorn. And my job is to basically take a small business and grow it. So develop people, develop teams, grow it. So it's a win-win process for them. They make a lot of money. We make a lot of people rich. But for me, it sharpens my skills to be able to improve, you know, year after year. So that's what I'm doing, and I have a team in the Philippines, like now here in Skunks Works in the Philippines. We've got a team in Taiwan, team in Singapore, team in Malaysia, team in the US.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's growing, and I'm part of a very big group, but we operate as part of the, you know, kind of more tip of the sphere, really. Like, you know, it's overall the group is 80,000 people.
Wow.
But then I manage a group of people that then opens up new doors for us, especially during COVID. So yeah, it's a long story, but there's a lot there to learn from. But I remain the same guy that I was as a student. It's just more prepared, more scars. I probably have more clarity in my mind and how I think. So
Looking at you now, we wouldn't believe that you went through all that, like the job experiences that you had when you, before even into getting into the break that you had. But we're very curious. I know that you mentioned earlier about doing something about it, like reading magazines, talking to yourself, or watching TV. But apart from that, what else did you do? I mean, maybe after that, what else did you do to even get better? I'm pretty sure that you did not just settle
absolutely.
with that.
Now it's more improved. I am convinced, and it is my belief, that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And most people understand how to build things and what are things that businesses are building, but they don't know the why. And for you to be able to tell the why, you need to be a really good storyteller. You need to be able to zoom into the persona, the struggle, and how that struggle was resolved. So I started to look into the best communicators in the world, and for me, I like comedians.
Me too.
And they're amazing. And one of the most difficult things to do is to get people to laugh, right, without context. And comedians, the way they prepare, it's crazy. Like, for them to be able to deliver a 3-minute material, they have to prepare for 3 months.
Right.
So 3 months of preparation to speak for 3 minutes. That is the kind of discipline that these guys bring, and be able to convince people to laugh, even though you are in a foreign environment and you don't know these guys. And I think that's very powerful, and most people don't look into it as power, but for me, that's where it all starts, right? And how do you tell a story that then convince whoever it is that you are talking to make an action? Otherwise, you're just informative. If you're technical, all you say is, I'm really good at this, and everyone would just say, yeah, good for you. They're not going to make a decision to help you or something. So yeah, like improving, putting yourself in that situation, going to places like events that I have to go. First time I walk up the stage, about 7,000 to 10,000 people in Las Vegas. I was shaking. I couldn't even remember where I put my bag. I was literally shaking. and I just have to put myself there. And I thought after that bit, I thought I didn't really do good. But then after that, I get opportunities to be able to meet a lot of successful people, and I started looking for ways how to connect to billionaires. I've got this dream where I can become friends with 5 billionaires, and that was my first experience of actually a billionaire reach out to me, and we went on for lunch, and he said, "Would you like to work for me?" And I said, "No, I just want to be friends," because I've got this dream that I want to have billionaire friends. But speaking brings you to places that you cannot imagine,
I agree.
right? Like, and I think that's very important.
Thank you for sharing your stories. They're
All good.
very inspirational. How did you discover your career path in technopreneurship? What made you decide to pursue this career pathway?
That's a good point. If most people see me as, if you ask my mom would say, "Oh, well, that's really your thing. Like you're good with that." But if I really consider,
Just for the fun of it,
yeah,
can we have our live viewers hear you say Bisaya? Because you're very fluent. So let's
Say
hear
Bisaya,
that. The line your mom would usually say. Say it in Bisaya.
ang ginusto sa akong mama perminti is daghan kog ma-convince nga silingan about kung unsa akong gusto, or ma-convince ako ang silingan nga apilon ko nila gluto silang paniudto, like simple things like that. But that's really the starting point where I started to question, but what is really the reason why I'm here? I think it wasn't about a decision that I want to be in entrepreneurship or techpreneurship. I think it was the challenge that I've taken, that helping people is addictive. And I've learned that from one of my billionaire friends. And he said, "You will never need a coffee in your life if you've understood the power of helping." Quick story. We were in New York, very cold. We're waiting for this presentation to happen. We were awake for almost 27 hours. And he said, "You're sleepy, Thor?" "Yeah, I'm ready to sleep." And he said, "Let's go out, get a bag." We went to McDonald's. We put as much burgers as we can in McDonald's. This is January, so it's very cold. We find as much homeless people as we can, give them burgers, go around a few blocks. And then we went up and we were energized. And for him, helping is the most selfish thing a person can do. And when you help, endorphins would flow and you're basically back alive. So that trick, like, though it sounds simple, not a lot of people do that. So I've learned tricks that allowed me to be able to navigate through business. So for me, it's a challenge of taking on helping people, and not a lot of people to begin with. I just basically said, I just want to help a few people that I know, give them a career. You start seeing them buy houses, buy cars, have family. For me, that's what I represent. I could be really bad in many things, but as long as I can see the team that I represent become a better version of themselves, that's it. If I'm required to be a techpreneur or an entrepreneur, then I just have to learn the whole thing. So the challenge that I've taken is, how do I become a vessel of helping others become a better version of themselves? And then it just happens to be, you need to be an entrepreneur to make that happen. And I think that's how I end up in this career.
That's a very nice story. I like it. Looking back, what were the major career challenges that you had to face? I know that communication was one, but you didn't mention it was a major challenge. What were some of the major challenges that you had to deal with?
It's not easy leading people. I say that I am trained to deal with machines and talk to machines. I am not trained to deal with people and talk to people. So that I think remains to be one of my biggest challenge day to day. From an engineering standpoint, we are passionate about what we call moonshot projects. These are projects that we can't Google it because no one else have done it, and now we're trying to solve it. We tend to enjoy that our day-to-day life is 90% fuck up, 10% correct. And it's difficult to convince people, to get them to be confident and and still show up the next day, even
Like
if
nothing
most,
happened.
Yeah, most of our path or our experience is just plain bad failures, right? So it is scary for a lot of people, but it's just a matter of showing up and
Sure.
still believing in yourself. Because for me, I've mentioned some cheeky lines like, I want to help people become better version of themselves, but the foundation of that is, how do you push them enough that they would understand the boundary of their skills? And for you to be able to get to that boundary, you need to inspire them to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And to do that, you need to ask them to be vulnerable. And for you to be able to convince people to be vulnerable, you need to earn their trust. So you need to show them that I fail every day too. I am not as good as I am written on brochures and celebrated by other magazines. So I have to show the real me, and I have to use my fuck ups as my message. So so day to day you show up, you show the struggle, and I think that then helps you kind of progress things.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Can
good.
you share to us your career highlight then? I know that you've mentioned earlier about your breakthroughs and all that, but the tip of the iceberg, career highlight.
If you asked me about 5 years ago, I'd probably say I was part of the team that managed to get a blind person see. I think for me, functionally, that was one big career highlight. If you ask me now, be able to give my team the ability to have a better lifestyle, be able to help their parents, be able to decide for themselves, to create a family, be confident to have kids, be able to give their kids a better path than what they've gone through. Nothing beats that. Like for me, that's what inspires me to go crazy every day.
What drives you?
Yeah, money, technology, that's just something that would change. But to be able to see your team becomes better, it's priceless for me. So yeah, I think my highlight would be almost like seeing that team develop into a version that even themselves they couldn't even imagine before. So
Helping them see their potentials.
yeah, and live that daily, and be humble and be kind but lethal. So that's the sort of that's what
like a
inspires
mantra.
me every day. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of everyday, what is it like in a day in your career life?
As their leader, the rule is, if you have people in your office that goes up 6 a.m., you need to be there. And if they leave 2 a.m., you need to be there. So yes, and then it's common to my friends who would ask me here in Cagayan that, you're the boss, why are you stuck in the office for 17 hours? That's how you lead. The biggest challenge for my career is I have got a team that are energized and work really hard. The worst thing I can do is go home and relax. So my highlight is pretty much that. Before anything else, it's just your presence, just to show up, and be able to do that day in, day out. So you need to find energy, you need to figure out how to sleep well. So in sleeping, I am learning from how sailors sleep, because you cannot function well if you're sleep deprived. So I'm learning from how to sleep when sailors are basically sailing alone across an ocean. So I have to learn that way. I have to carry bed everywhere. So I've got a bed in my office. I've got a hotel, and I've got ways on how to sleep really fast in that sense. So you invest time in doing that, because you're always to be in the floor. You need to be calm when everyone basically is struggling, and you just need to face a problem and say, I don't know how to solve you now, but I think if I would spend another 2 hours, I think you'll become
circle back
solvable.
to you.
Yeah, so it's hard work. Like a lot of people would tell me there's a lot of better ways of doing it. I haven't figured that out. I think my method that works well for me is show up, hard work, and just really be realistic in what you're trying to do. You know, we are aspiring to solve something big, but you need to be realistic as well to who you are. Like, you know, I could always dream that I could sing like Bruno Mars, but I'm not gonna take that career because I know I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna be able to pick up a microphone and sing that well. So be hyper realist and be able to just reassess yourself every day. So yeah.
Speaking of realist, be a realist or be realistic about what you really want to do. I think it's also part of that is also doing something to get to that point. So if, like I mentioned, I think we were talking about this earlier off cam. I was just telling you that, you know, success, being the best in doing everything that you could they're just partly they're very big words.
Yes.
They're you know, you have to do something to map all out. I mean, to map everything out and do something about getting to that point. If you want to be the best, you don't just simply say I'm the best or I want to be the best, because they're very concrete words. They're very big. So you have to do something to get to that point of being the best. Right. So
it's a lifestyle you have to live with, and depending on what you really want. If you want to be the best, you'll be frustrated every day because there's always going to be someone that's better than you.
That will disappoint you.
So you just need to figure out if you want to be the best version of yourself, then you might have a shot. Right? Like so yeah, it's just a mindset shift of how you want to live your life and what is it that you think your purpose is, and be able to execute that daily. Just makes you happy.
Different people have different purposes in life, right?
Absolutely.
Even my kid, I would ask her, what do you want to be or what do you want to do when you grow up? And she would just simply say, I want to be successful. And I would tell her, define successful. What's success for you? Because if you tell me, you know, just being there for someone is a success for you, then you're already successful. So again, we always go back to our roots, to our causes, to our purposes, and what really makes us us, right?
Self-discovery. You have to discover who you are, and once you discover it, you just let it out, and then you don't care what other people tell you, and
take
that's
it from
who you
there.
are.
True. In this industry for 4.0, how relevant is technopreneurship as a career path? Because I think our live viewers also, some of them are also thinking into getting to that career path.
If you look at the top 10 richest person in the world, all of them are in tech.
I agree.
Right. Our ancestors, if this is 1980s, people would say you'll become rich by acquiring enough properties, and then you wait till it appreciates, and then off it goes. People like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, none of those guys are basically in real estate. They've invested in their own talent. They invested in their heads first before they managed to manifest that. These guys have understood that the way the world works is you need to be able to clearly see it in your head, and then everything else would just somehow manifest. So you need to be able to figure out how you could be successful in your head first, and then be able to manifest that. Because whatever it is that you're thinking, whether you're talking biblical or non-biblical, it is important whatever we think is filtered in a way that is exactly what you want to manifest in real life. Because I think, you know, that's one thing that people don't see. People see the outside, people see the flashy cars, money, and all the travels, and you know, but no one really understand how hard the struggle is to get to that point. Techpreneurship seems like it's a shiny thing that people basically throw out there, but it's a discipline of sacrifice. You can only be good in techpreneurship based on how good you can sacrifice, and how you can sustain that longer. Meaning, you have to convince your parents that you don't show. Today's my sister's wedding. I was in the office working, and my sister's fine with it because everyone knows that that's just who I am. You have to convince your parents that this is the life that I have chosen. Like a good example, right? Kobe Bryant, everyone knows Kobe Bryant, right? Well celebrated guy, really, really good work ethic, right? He would wake up 3 a.m. to play, starting playing 4 a.m. He will play 4 a.m. until midday and then relax for another hour. He'd play again until 10 p.m. Now, the society would call it Mamba mentality. But if you're an entrepreneur, you wake up 3 a.m., work 4 a.m., finish at 10 a.m., you suddenly go home and it's like, where's your work-life balance? Right? And that's really the reality. Like, people see Kobe Bryant as, oh my God, successful, quote the hashtag Mamba mentality. But no one wakes up 4 a.m. No one hustles the entire day and basically go home and say, I'm very energized because I'm very productive today. And I think that's very important that people understand that, because if you take where we're coming from, like for me, I can only speak for my own story at USTP. If I don't take that opportunity and improve myself, I don't have a mom and dad that would give me an inheritance of a lot of money. So I can only invest in myself and figure out, how do I improve my path, my odds to basically going through this life, and at least you could, look back and say that was fun. And I think regardless of I'm rich or not, I could always look back and say, well, I've pushed really hard. I know my boundary. I have figured out my purpose. I'd be contented with that. And if I'm rich, then yay, thank you. But at least that should be the sort of path that everyone should think about. How do you improve yourself? Because that is your best asset. So yeah, there's a lot, I think, that you could shift people's mind. Here, often you see people feel they're disadvantaged because they don't have money and they're hungry. For me, that's an advantage, because when you're hungry, you know how to hustle, you know where to find food. It's same in business. If you want to be in entrepreneurship, leverage that hungriness, leverage that craziness, because that's what makes you who you are. That's what makes you crazy, and it would level the odds against those guys. The challenge today here is people tend to be techpreneurship or entrepreneur, and they tend to follow the footsteps of those guys that are already rich, that are basically doing entrepreneurship. So that's a different path. Yes, if mommy and daddy is rich, then take that path then. I think what I'm sharing is that there's a path as well that kung binisaya palaway ray puhunan to begin with.
Tinood.
And then you grow from there.
Right. Following your statement earlier about mapping everything out in your head, and then that will manifest, I think it's also crucial that you know how to get those ideas across other people. Because going back now in your statement, if we connect that, how you speak it out, how you communicate, it's a very powerful tool in your business, right? Because if it's only in your head, who knows what's going on in your head? So
they'll die with you. No one would know.
You will take that to your grave. Okay, seeing that you really love what you're doing in your work, what wisdom can you impart to our trailblazers, aside from what you have already shared? Apart from those, do you have any other things that you want to impart to our live viewers for tonight, so they can thrive in
there's
the world
probably
of
a
work?
lot, right? There's probably a lot, but I can sum it up like just be curious as a cat, work like a carabao, and be loyal as a dog. Take that in anywhere you go and you'll do well. But be prepared to fail, pretty much. Because like for me, the best people out there, actually the frequency is 90% failing, 10% winning, right? And I always use the plane as an analogy, right? If a plane would take off from Laguindingan to Manila, 90% of the time, the plane's path is wrong, and there's a software that then corrects that 90% of the time. So the only time that it's correct is when it takes off and it lands. When it's actually in flight, 90% of the time the software do the course correction. So imagine your career to be like that. You wake up every day and don't say, I'm doing really good. You basically say, what is it today that I'm going to fail? And I'm going to prepare for that. I'm going to brace for that. And I'm going to be ready for that again tomorrow. And the only question you ask every day you wake up is, can I still take another step forward? If the answer is yes, don't do a pity party, because someone told me that if you have regrets, wait until you're 80 and then start thinking about your regrets. Today, just play.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because according to an article at women at Forbes files, when you know it's not working, quit fast.
Here you go.
Where do you stand on that?
Well, it's really, again, going back to being hyper realist, understanding who you are, then you can make the decision whether quitting is the right thing or not. If I quit this on my own experience, when I started working in a supermarket packing, kind of foods, packing fruits in bags, that doesn't work for me. But I can't quit because I definitely think that I'm gonna have to pay for bills today and tomorrow and figure out things. So there are moments that you're boring and you're bored. That's the time you'd basically improve in yourself, and then figure out whether you can actually afford to quit, because quitting is just a pivot. Quitting is not like I'm gonna stop doing it. Quitting is when you realize that I can do something better than this, than where I am right now.
It's like a springboard.
Correct. And if, again, mommy and daddy is not rich, you can't decide to quit and ask money tomorrow. So you have to basically pay for your quitting process, and don't just quit because you're emotionally feeling like I'm gonna quit. I don't like this. So you need to quit, and you need to be prepared for that moment so that you can pivot to something more better than what you're doing now. But I think if you're dealing with a toxic boss and you're really not productive, you might as well take this. So
That's a
it's
different
circumstantial,
story.
right? Because if you don't like the people you're working every day, there's no winning there. You will not learn. You'll just become a negative person, and you'll start hating everyone. So you might as well, if it's a self-preservation, then quit really today. But if
To keep your sanity.
but if you're just bored and you feel like it's not adding value to your career progression, if you have no options yet, take that opportunity and say, okay, I'm in a boring environment. This work cannot stimulate me to be intellectual. Then find time there, invest in yourself, so that after that moment you're ready to basically take the quitting approach. And then not I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna pack my bags and go home and go see my mom and dad, say, hey mom and dad, I'm back. I'm looking for another scholarship, eh? But it's circumstantial, right? But it's important that if you can imagine it, you have to do it. That's really key. If you can imagine that I gotta have to quit, and after quitting this is what I'm gonna do, you have to do it, because whether you're wrong or right, you have to do it when your head starts thinking about it. Because if not, it's actually not healthy telling yourself no, right? Like for me, if I'd say I'm gonna pick this up, and my brain's telling me like pick this up, touch that. If I would say to my brain, say no, that's a signal already that your internal system is not cooperating, and they don't trust each other.
They're not in sync.
And you'd inherit that moving forward, so that every time you want to do something, you have 5 things that tells you don't. And that's really key. That's actually scientific. If I ask you to do something that you haven't done before, your brain will tell you not to do it within 5 seconds of telling. And that means you have to overcome that, because people think that passion is about every day you wake up and there's butterflies, right? No, passion is about waking up and you don't want to wake up, but then you can convince
Keep
your
fighting.
head and say, for me, I'm really the worst that I have named my brain Rick. So every day I wake up and say, Rick, shut up, I gotta have to work. I know you're telling me not to. So yeah, I know it sounds like I'm a crazy person, but that is what you develop to become good in what you do. You start talking to yourself. And for me, so I can talk to myself better, I've started naming my brain Rick. So every time Rick tells me not to do stuff, I could argue with Rick.
That's your way of coping with, right? So
you're
that's
weird
all
from
good.
other people. Like, you're in a plane and someone's like, this guy's talking to himself. But at the end, as long as you're happy and you're not hurting someone, then that's how you cope up and how you improve yourself.
How did USTP prepare you for the world of work in general?
USTP has this culture when I was here to be able to, regardless how difficult the situation is, or you're doing something that is against all odds, then just do it anyway, right? Like, you've got situations where gabaha sa gawas and you still have to show up because your professor would still fail you if you don't show up. You can't go there and say, So I think prepared us to do that. The respect of education, it's one thing. Appreciation of struggle. You know, if I was surprised the first time I was in a boardroom where successful people, rich people would start talking. It's like, hey, what was your struggle last week? They start actually addressing people, knowing that every successful people would have a struggle, and they own it. They would actually share that.
They
My
talk
struggle
about
last
it.
week was about
Right.
this.
They recognize.
Yeah, so they use their failures as their story, and they recognize that for you to be able to be successful, you have to go through a struggle. It's like a relationship. It's never perfect. You would decide to be in a relationship with someone because you've decided
True.
morning personality ako maantos. So it's always a struggle, right? So it's the same, right? It's the same approach of how do you balance the decision day to day, and sort of what direction you need to
I think
move
what's
forward
good thing
tomorrow.
also about recognizing those struggles is that you would be able to then get to the point where you would be able to like assess
Yeah.
which of those are worth,
Yeah.
worth continuing.
You're
and
human, you're
we're-
relatable, you know, and a lot of people look at me and say, hey Thor, you're really I don't know how to spell really well. and I struggle with a lot of these things when I do, like, there's a lot of things that I am not really good at, but you just have to embrace it. And once you embrace that, that makes you unique. And when you express that, your body would feel like, yeah, we're accepted, and we can, you know, stand firm on where we are, and you become creative. Otherwise, you're so busy thinking what others people thinking about you, and yeah, it's tough.
You'd always feel insecure or not good enough for anybody.
Everyone is insecure. Like, we just need to figure out how do you manage that
True.
insecurity, right? And if you don't recognize that insecurity, you get caught off guard, and now you're not ready to deal with it. But if you actually recognize that my insecurity is there, I'm actually going to tell other people that I'm insecure with this bit, so people could actually help you whenever you're in that situation, you know.
Plus, nobody can use that against you.
Yeah, it's basically say, oh, these are the things that I'm not good at. So, so when you make a mistake, then everyone's like, yeah, that was,
Yeah,
you know,
that was expected.
Yeah, that was expected. Yeah.
What career advice can you give to our fellow trailblazers, whether they're fellow alumni or students tuning in right now, and how they can thrive in the world of work?
Invest in yourself, pretty much. Invest and find who you are, and figure out what are your limits. And it is when you start to pursue that you will find your true purpose. And when you find your purpose, everything else is self-explanatory.
Very well said. Thank
Yeah.
you. I know that those are really very general.
Yeah.
How can you make that specific true to you? How did you invest in yourself? Can you would you be able to share that?
Be proud of the amount of sacrifice you do every day, right? Every day there's sacrifice. Like I mentioned, like today's my
Sister's
wedding. My sister knows that I love her and I support her decision. But she knows as well that opportunities like this, to be able to create content that allows other people to understand what worked for me. Maybe it's not for everyone, but if I could help one person out there that would listen to this, that's a big win for me and big win for my family, and that's my sister's contribution to the cause and the journey that I'm taking. So I think going through that every day, breaking tradition, and
Going
be
through
able
that
to be
notion.
weird, and yes, a lot of people will judge me, but again, it is who you are. It is what purpose you want to fulfill that would allow you to just not try and satisfy everyone, and be ready that people hate you, people not like what you do, and just figure out how do you still figure out how to sleep well at night.
True.
And yet a lot of people yeah, so yeah, like how do you be really honest to yourself, and honest to the cost that you're basically doing every day, that others can start actually talking about who you are and what you are, not the facade that you put in. Yes, everyone would have a facade. There's a lot of people that would lie about their state because you're insecure, right? Anything that talks about insecurity, you want to protect yourself. But beyond that, you need to be comfortable in really exploring who you are. You know, there's a lot of there's a lot of mentors that I've gotten. One of the thing that sticks in my head was, he said, Thor, do not die that you're still in a box, not being used, right? Who cares if you're tired, kind of feeling used and all that stuff. That's why we're here. That's why we're alive, to be able to fulfill something and to chase that purpose day to day. And if that means you have to break tradition sometimes, then you have to do it. Otherwise, you might make other people happy, but they will not truly understand who you are. Because if I pretend in our family to be a different person, they will probably not appreciate who I am, and they will always think that I'm just a kid that doesn't want to hang out with family.
Right.
But yeah, build that personal brand of who you really are, and others will truly appreciate you, and even your parents and your loved ones would understand. If that's who you are, then
Let the world see your
let the world
value,
see,
in other
and
words.
other people can help you, support
Right.
you. Because again, communication is key. Like, how many people have actually taken their life simply because no one have understood them? If truly we have a superpower to enable those guys to be able to tell their loved ones what they truly feel and they're not misunderstood, that's really, really powerful. We would save a lot of lives. And yet no one is talking about that important thing that everyone in the world of business, it's very crazy. There's always someone better than you, richer than you, more prepared than you. And it's brutal. There's no rule that don't kill this company. It's either if you either innovate or you'll die. If you're in that space, it's very lonely, it's very difficult for other people to relate to you. So it's important that you know how to speak and be able to tell your story so other people can help you out. Other than that, if I did not say something here that I'm actually vulnerable, I've got insecurities, everyone would just see me as I've figured everything out. Thor is so successful, he knows all. But the reality is not, right? I'm just facing different struggles
Every day.
daily, and I just happen to figure out a little bit on how to navigate through it, and I think everyone's doing that. So be able to speak and share your struggles and be able to share that to your loved ones would enable you to be able to be helped by the right people at the right time. So that's very, very important. So talk, engage, argue, because that's how you basically learn how to align yourself. We have this mantra in our office called HAHA, highly aligned and highly autonomous. So we just need to be highly aligned, and then you could be autonomous in whatever you do. So that's all based on communication. If you cannot communicate, you will really struggle.
Truly, I had so much fun. I'm having so much fun talking to you. I wish we could have more time. So anything else you would like to share in 1 minute? Maybe inspire our live viewers for tonight before you go?
No, I think, thank you for
I
having
know
me.
that they're already inspired enough, but 1 minute pitch.
That's tough, hey. It's I think I'm just an ordinary person. Nothing special. I'm just surrounded with the right people, and be able to be inspired. Shout out to Sir Remy Taga. Everything I do today, it's because of his words that have allowed me to be here. So whoever's listening to this, just listen to your surrounding. There are people that cares about you. There are people that see a better version of yourself. Listen to those words, and even if those words will not mean anything today, just let it, let it be like a seed inside of you, and nurture that. And one day you will get into a point in your life that you are making a decision, and I think that seed will help you make the right decision. And always surround yourself with people that appreciate you and understand who you are, because as you go self-discovery mode, you will become weird, you will become difficult to deal with, and only the people that understand truly the true essence of who you are will stick around. So it's important to have that, because otherwise you will be disappointed, and often disappointment is really what kills your dream, and you basically stop basically pursuing what you're looking for. So yeah, for me, just just be crazy, find who you are, learn from everywhere. I love biomimicry, which I believe that all problems have been solved by nature's kind of way. So look around, how the leaves move, how the dogs navigate, how the fish swims. Those are kind of key ingredient on how we solve our day-to-day problems, I think. So just be curious, again, as mentioned earlier, be curious as a cat, work like a cat, like Carabao, and then be loyal as a dog, and I think you'll do well in life. Thank
Sir
you.
Thor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it, mga Trailblazers. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from our Chickahound this evening. Sir Thor, once again,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Invaluable lessons and tips and life lessons, everything else in one.
Thank you.
It's really an honor to have you here with us tonight. But before you leave, I know because you will be leaving the Philippines again, right?
Yes.
Next week. I want you to leave a mark here in USTP by giving into our challenge.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as it's not singing.
The game is adapted from the Jimmy Fallon show, and we call it the Whisper Challenge. Actually,
Right.
there might be some singing later on.
Jesus Christ.
This is how it works. I have cards here with random phrases prepared by the organizers. I don't know them myself, so we're good with that. So we take turns in picking up a card and then wear headphones with loud music on, and the other person whispers the phrases on the card and the other one guesses.
Okay.
Whoever loses the game will either sing or dance.
Right.
Let's do this. You want to do it first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's gonna be tough.
Get one, please. Let's see. Chocolate covered.
Can you say it again?
Chocolate covered Oreos.
No, I have no clue.
One more time. Chocolate covered Oreos. No clue.
Oh man. How would I even?
Yeah, they're random.
Yeah.
My turn.
Chocolate covered Oreos. That's a lovely Oreo. Ooh. I don't even know this thing. Pickles on buns.
Menus on Paris.
No, I'm gonna say it again. Pickles on buns.
Menus or pants. Oh, pickles and buns.
Crazy. These are like meant for people to sing and dance. What's happening?
Okay. Do you want to build a snowman? Do you want to build a snowman?
I can't read.
Do you want to build a snowman?
No.
No, nothing?
No. Do you want to build a snowman? I could probably be better off saying Olaf than.
Last round, maybe?
There's actually somebody can actually answer this.
If I get this, you will either sing or dance. So I have to get this.
May the odd be in your favor. May the odd be in your favor.
May God be in your favor. May the force be in your favor.
No.
May the force be with you.
Good try. No.
Oh, may the
Almost
odd be.
there.
Oh.
See?
How about that? One more?
Okay.
Okay. Pick a pickle for my toothache.
Can you say it again?
Pick a pickle for my toothache.
Last one.
Pick a pickle for my toothache.
Man. Now,
Nothing.
pick a pickle for my... Just, I can't even spell that thing. How can I even say it?
That's about it, mga ka-trailblazers. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from our Chickahound this evening because I did. Thank you again, sir, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who tuned in with us this evening, to our dear alumni trailblazers, to the students and faculty who tuned in with us as well, and most especially to our alumni guests for tonight, Sir Thor, to the whole Career Center team, and to everyone who made this evening's episode successful. This has been your host, Grace Rojo, and it was indeed a lovely Chickahound with you guys. Join us again next time for another episode of Alumni Talks, your success stories, our legacy. Good night! Help me welcome Miss Angelica Ferme Halweza, Mr. Dinesh Onkal.
I'm all good, yeah.
Really, I wanted to say that my college years was one of the most colorful years of my youth.
Just don't focus on what are the in right now or what are the demands.
What career advice can you give to our fellow trailblazers?
Look for mentors. Mentors that influence you in the decision making.
What you are doing today is getting you closer to that goal.